Welcome back to Engage with the Page. Today we have a delightful book, an Australian classic. It's been around for almost 40 years, which I'm sure is longer than some of you have roamed this earth, but it's stood the test of time, and we think you'll enjoy it today. It's written by Mem Fox, a well-known Australian author, and illustrated by Julie Beavis, one of our most beautiful watercolour artists.
So last week we met up with Jerome, who was a word collector. We are also meeting up with another character, Wilfrid McDonald Partridge, who is a collector of things to help his friend Miss Nancy with her memories. We think this is a great book for the beginning of the year, or really any time of the year when you're looking at the identity of your students. Memories are so important to how students see themselves and how we can connect with each other. So it's a great opportunity for you to think about Miss Nancy and what memory means, and also figure out what memories are important to your students. So Lauren, you've done something with this.
Yep. So a few times we've started off the year by getting the kids to just collect things that are important to them or show who they are as people, and just bring in a little box called maybe a me box to school, where they can set up their collections, and then the kids can see what connections they have with each other. And of course you can also do this online if you are starting the year online. Absolutely.
And then a next step for both younger and older students would be to extend that into writing. So they're bringing in their me boxes, or they're talking about important memories, but then you can weave that into your writing program as well.
Yeah, if you happen to be doing a writing unit on personal narratives, this is so perfect because this book uses the ed suffix, which often signifies past tense, and personal narratives are written in past tense.
You know, I love this book for lots of reasons. As you said, it's great for personal narratives. It also has lots of other writing techniques, great for mini lessons on writing. That use of repetition, like really beautifully used. So sometimes our children use repetition inappropriately, and we're like, oh, you just used that word. I don't think we want to use it 3 times in, 2 sentences. But the repetition in this story is quite delightful. There's some beautiful, just like rhythm and use of language. He called on Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. So you've got that assonance. But coming back to that idea of signaling the past tense, I think we can take a lot of the verbs that are in the sentences, and it's just full of them, and then start to look at the past tense and how the past tense is marked.
So it is a great book just to look at that ed suffix, and the ed suffix is so interesting because it has different pronunciations. It represents different phonemes. So if you look throughout the book, you'll be able to collect those ed words with your students. Maybe words like called, looked, or started, which are all things that Wilfrid McDonald Partridge does, and when he's interviewing different people. So then what you can do is think about the different pronunciations there. And you can see on Lauren's board, she's representing the different phonemes for that. And she's boxed the base for you as well. So this is actually one of the activities that we're providing for you, where we've given you a list of ed words, and students can sort those. You could do that as a class. You could hand the words out to different students and have them try to find people who have the same sound or the same phoneme or pronunciation of ed. You could sort them into different lists. You could find your own in different books while you were reading and compare those that way. And then it's a great springboard into, if they're investigating these words, when they go to read or write these words in different parts of your literacy block, you can make that connection.
Yeah, because when children are writing, we all know that not just young children will spell a word like jumped, J-U-M-P-T. Why are they spelling it with a T? Because they're feeling that phoneme when they're sounding it out, and they're placing so much or over relying on sound for their spelling rather than thinking about the meaning of the word.
I'm sure you've also had students when they've been reading a book, and they'll often pronounce a word like stopped instead of stopped. So, you can really see that that backwards and forwards relationships between letters and sounds, and pointing that out to students when they read and they write. When they read and they write is really powerful.
Yeah, so how many of us, oh, go ahead, Fiona.
No, you say.
I was just going to say, how many of us are always encouraging students to read the whole word or read right to the end of the word? And we've unlocked that mystery for them, that ED can say or can represent different sounds.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, as Angela was saying, an activity in your classroom where the children are sorting words with an ED suffix and thinking about, well, what's the phoneme at the end? And then, of course, some of your children will ask questions. Well, why do we pronounce it different ways? So, you know, as a starting place, it's great to know that we do pronounce it different ways. Some of them will start to think about why. And, you know, I know that I've done that in classes with children before, particularly the older children will have some great hypotheses and really start to think about, well, what is the sound or the phoneme at the end of the base? And that can lead you into that investigation. But also, I think, don't forget that a couple of important things. We as teachers often say, well, ED means it's already happened. And generally it does, but we also have to think that suffixes can do or have function in more than one way as well. And so that ED suffix can also be added to a base to form a particle, so that we have adjectives like the painted door or the bearded man. So to think about that, it's not acting as a verb in that situation. And I think something else you can do if you're really starting to dig into the phonology of words and that relationship between letters and sounds is to take some of the bases and then start to look at, well, how is the base built? What are the letters doing? How do they function in the base? So if we looked at a word, if we took a word like looked, and you had been investigating that, take the base and let's feel the phonemes. We know it's a base. We know what it means to see, because we always have to start with meaning. And it's a base, and then we can feel look, and then we can spell it L-O-O-K, look, so that we're building up the children's grapheme phoneme correspondences.
Yeah, and we want the students to also know that although we're investigating ED, that these bases also have other suffixes that we can use with them. So you can investigate, what else could you add to look? What is in the look family? Going back to that finding families.
So if you happen to be starting the year online, we have found that Michael Caton, who is a great Australian actor, for those of you who are Australian, you might know The Castle. So we found a great read aloud that we'll share with you of him reading the book aloud.
I actually also found an audio of Mem Fox, so it doesn't have the visuals. So if you have the book, she's the author, and I found on her website reading it aloud. So that's quite nice too.
And then under this video, you'll find our thing link. And what we have there is all of the ideas that we talked about, and maybe even a couple more, and you'll have to wait and see, linked underneath. So we'll have all the different icons. If you actually click on those, they'll expand to show you some of the ideas that we talked about in more depth.
And as we wrap this up today, it really made me think, I don't know if any of you have seen the little YouTube clips, or I think there are television programs, the Old People's Home for 4-year-olds, which I believe started in the UK, and they also have it in Australia, where, you know, a lot of children from daycare centres are interacting with elderly people, and it just made me think of that so much. And they're so delightful. The experience for both age groups is so powerful and so beautiful, and this book really made me think of that.
Yeah, you know, so it does just remind us that it is just a great book standalone, but why not enjoy it and connect it to things at the beginning of the year, and also different parts of word inquiry as well.
So check out this book
and engage with the page.
And we'll see you again next week.